Welcome back to the Quest for Lore podcast. My name is T. I am joined, as always, by Nick. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, T. How are you?
I am well. We're going to get right into today's theme for the pod, where we are going to be ranking all of the super rares and legendaries from set 1 for Lorcana. First chapter.
Looking forward to it. I know we're going to have some differing opinions, and I'm ready to hear your thoughts.
I think that's going to make it even better when we have, like, very differing opinions. We both look at this game from a much different angle, it feels like, which makes the podcast really interesting and makes deck building and testing really interesting. So let's see how it goes when we line everything up on a tier list, huh?
Yep. Let's do it.
All right, we're going to be starting off with yellow, amber.
Woohoo!
So, start with the super rares. We're going to be grading everything on a scale of S, A, B, C, D, and F tiers, where S is the best, F is the worst, and B to C is like the middle of the pack. We're going to be grading things off of playability, how they fit into a diverse metagame, and if they fit multiple archetypes or just one specific archetype or one deck or one type of gameplay. We're going to be talking about if these are things you should be picking up in the first week once the game comes out, if you think you're going to be really deep into these colors. We're going to be covering a wide variety of reasons for why we've put each of these on the tier list. So without further ado, let's start off alphabetically in yellow with ARIEL.
I'm going to take this one. This one's one of my favorite cards. It's so hard to not give something an S because you just really like it. But I'll try and be objective. So ARIEL is a 3-mana inkable 2/3 with Singer 5 with 1 lore pip. And when you play the character, you look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You can reveal a song, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom. I think this card is very good in specific song archetypes. Obviously, you don't want to play it outside of that. It doesn't do much. But in something like let's say Amber Steel, you can use her to sing A Whole New World and grab your swords. You can find those cards with her. 3 toughness isn't terrible. I really like this card. I would put this card in A because I think it's good in the things that you wanted, and it's fantastic. I don't know that you should necessarily pick it up like as soon as the game drops. It's very niche. Like you can play Amber without this card, but if you want to play songs specifically, then you'll grab her. What are your thoughts, T?
I think that you are pretty on the money here, but being a 3 cost, so it covers a little bit of your early game, quests when it does nothing, it replaces itself most of the time because the decks that are going to play this are playing a lot of song cards in the deck. And you can even play things like Reflection, just so that you have more inkables that you can grab off of this trigger if you're playing like Amber Amethyst. I think this card is really powerful, and Singer 5 is going to be very underrated, especially with the cards that you were mentioning, Whole New World, Grab Your Swords. I'm going to put this S tier. I think ARIEL is S tier.
I'm happy to put it there. Absolutely.
All right, so we'll drop our first friend off. ARIEL, Spectacular Singer, S tier. I don't think these are going to be cheap for long when the game comes out. Pick them up. That's my opinion. I think this card is going to be very powerful. I think these colors are going to be potentially very powerful in the right shell. The only thing it has going against it is that it's Amber. And I think Amber is the weakest color. But this card makes the world go round. We'll move on to the next card. We have Maximus, Palace, Horse. What are your thoughts on Maximus, Palace, Horse? It's a 5-drop, inkable, 4 power, 5 health, with bodyguard and support, and it quests for 1.
Once again, he's like ARIEL, but a little worse, I think. So 4 or 5 for 5 isn't amazing. That's not bad. But he goes in one very specific deck, and that's the bodyguard deck. And I don't think that's going to be very competitive at all. I think it's going to be fun to do, and I think you'll probably steal some locals with it, but it's probably not going to compete very well at the high end. Um, but the fact that he supports is pretty solid for bodyguards, just because they don't normally have a very high attack. So being able to quest with him, turn on his bodyguard, and give one of your other bodyguards more attack is pretty solid. So I think he's good in the deck he's good in, and then other than that, he's just kind of yeah. I'd put him in like high C, low B maybe. And this is not one I would pick up as like on release weekend. He'll probably drop in price. Thoughts, T?
I don't think this card is very good at all. It's a 4/5 for 5. It's fine, right? Like the stat line is not anything to write home about. But most of the cards in the first set aren't anything to write home about, it feels like. It only quests for 1 in a 5-drop slot. It's really slow. It's inkable, so if you get multiples, I feel like it's gonna be one of the first things you want to ink. Bodyguard support. You're right, it has a little bit going for it with the support and the bodyguard. You get to turn bodyguard on while also being kind of a heavy hitter. But supporting 4, like what are you gonna kill? What are you going to challenge with something when you support 4 onto it? Like, are you gonna hit a Rapunzel?
So I mean that's what I'm saying though. So like a lot of the bodyguards don't have very high power, so there's times where you need to like kill like a 5 or a 6 toughness thing, and being able to support Maximus onto that would allow you to do so.
I guess for me this is a stinker. I'm D tier here.
D tier.
I'm D tier on Maximus.
That's rough. Okay.
I'll compromise with you. We'll put it in C tier.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm not thrilled with Maximus in C. You know, this card doesn't stand out to me. I don't know. Not impressed.
Okay.
Next we have Stitch Rockstar. This is a card that people have been talking about since the game's inception, since D23. Stitch Rockstar is a 6-drop that is inkable. It is a 3 attack and 5 health character with Shift 4. And it has Adoring Fans, which is whenever you play a character with cost 2 or less, you may exert them to draw a card, and Stitch will quest for 3. People talk about this card as like this giant combo engine where you just want to play a bunch of things in a turn and draw a bunch of cards. But that means you're filling your deck with relatively weak characters. I think card draw has been mainly tied to yellow and purple. Card selection has been tied to things like blue with Develop Your Brain. But card draw itself is not inherently powerful if you're filling your deck with a bunch of weak cards. And that's kind of what your deck ends up being if you're playing a bunch of things that cost 2 or less. You're kind of trying to be an aggro deck, but then putting a 6-drop in your aggro deck, where, sure, you can shift it for 4 onto your other Stitch, and the other Stitch is a 1-drop. You can get it out on a relatively early curve to have a 3-quest character. The effect is not doing it for me, though. I think that the effect matters a lot less than people think, but the quest for 3 on a 4-drop, essentially, is where the power of this card comes in.
I agree. I think he's better than you're giving him credit for, but at the same time, there's a really good yellow-green aggro deck currently, and it runs this card, but it never really plays it. It feels like the game is over before you get the chance to use it. I don't know. There are some cases where like this isn't a typical game where you're like swinging your characters into your opponent and then they can block it. Like you're gaining lore and they have to deal with your things no matter how big they are. So if like you're aggressive and you get to like 14 lore or somewhere around there before they deal with your threats, if you stick one of these and start dropping a bunch of 1-drops, they may be 1-drops, but they're going to win you the game. So I think they're a little better than you. I think Stitch is a little better than you give him credit for, but I would put him in like a low B, high C. I don't think he's amazing.
I think B is probably where I'm at on this card as well. Like, yeah, it's not incredible, but it is still a good card. It's still quests for a bunch, fits into the aggro shell, dusts if it sucks, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, let's put Stitch Rockstar into B tier. That's going to tie off all of the super rares for Amber. So right now, we've got one in S, one in B, and one in C. Moving on into Amethyst, we have everybody's favorite super rare to pull. Excited every time you see it. This is Marshmallow, Persistent Guardian.
He goes in his own category. He has a Marshmallow tier under F, which is rough because I do like this card, but I understand why you don't like this card. He's cool. Like he's a 5/5 that comes back and like in your head, like in your Magic term, like if in your control deck, right, in Magic, if you were to hear that you can have a creature that wins you the game and keeps coming back every time it dies, you would be like, "Whoa, that's awesome!" Like they can't get rid of it. That's hot. But he's not that. He only comes back if he gets banished in a challenge. He quests for 1. He's only a 5/5 for 6. He's uninkable. He's not good.
They
Not good.
tried
He's
too
under F.
hard. They tried too hard to balance this card by making it not broken, and I think they went too far the other way, which is fine. It's like they put this effect on a character that's not like a main frontrunner Disney character, right? Like this is just a side character from Frozen, which is sure, but the effect is just if it gets hit with Let It Go, it goes to your ink, it's gone. If it gets hit with Dragonfire, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's hit with Maleficent, be prepared. There's just so many answers. The good answers right now. Just take this card off the board, and I don't want to pay 6 mana to play an uninkable 5/5 that only quests for 1. This is a stinker for me. For the sake of this tier list, I'm not going to actually make a Marshmallow tier, but I am putting this in F.
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't know how he's not in Marshmallow tier, but that's okay.
We've got Marshmallow Gone 2 tier coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, what do we have next?
We have Mickey Mouse, Wayward Sorcerer. He's a 4 mana inkable, 3/4, quest for 2. He has Animate Broom, where you pay 1 less to play Broom characters, and Ceaseless Worker. Whenever one of your Broom characters is banished in a challenge, you may return that card to your hand. What do you think about this, T?
Quest for 2. Got
Quests for 2.
3 attack and 4 health on a 4-drop. It's not bad. It can ink itself. The 1 less for Broom characters, not really relevant right now. We only have the 1 Broom, I'm pretty sure. The 2-drop 2/2 that shuffles a card from a yard back into the deck.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line could matter a lot if you're playing like a really aggressive purple deck. Just getting one of your characters back could matter. Like that 1 extra lore or putting an extra good card back in your deck when you get your Broom back the second time in the late game. It could definitely matter. And this card feels really well statted. I don't think this is nuts. Like there are a lot of common or rare 3-drop 3/4s. So this is a 4-drop 3/4 with a lot more text, and it quests for 2 instead of 1. This card feels really powerful, and to me, it feels like it's setting up for something in set 2 or set 3, where we're going to get more Broom characters, Fantasia set of songs. Like there's something coming here. This card is not just on its own. And for me, this card right now feels like probably A tier.
Whoa, that is spicy. So I agree with most of the stuff you said. 3/4 for 4 isn't terrible. It's got a lot of text. It quests for 2. There will probably be more shifted Mickeys in the future. There will also probably be more Brooms in the future. But as he stands right now in this set, I was gonna put him at like C. He just doesn't do anything. You never like in set 1. Why would you ever play him?
I mean, it's fine stats and a quest 2. I don't think this card is nearly as bad as you think it is right now. Compromise with me here. Let's call it B tier.
I'll call it B tier.
All right.
That's fine.
All right. We'll put Michael Mouse into B tier. And I'm
Good job, Michael Mouse.
calling him and telling him you did that to him tonight.
Okay. Well, you can debate me on the next Michael Mouse.
All right. Moving on. We have the last purple super rare. This is the Queen, Wicked and Vain. The 5-drop inkable, 4 power, 5 health, with tap to draw a card, and it quests for 1.
Yep. I don't like this card. I played it as a 4 of in the Amber Amethyst Song deck that I made, and it never did what I wanted it to. It's a 4/5 for 5, which is like, it's fine, it's whatever. It quests for 1, which in fairness, I guess you're tapping it to draw cards anyway, so you don't really want to quest with it, but it's an option. And then tapping it to draw a card seems strong, but the problem is it's a character. And I didn't realize that was the problem until I played it. But at the most, you get like a card out of it. And maybe she would be better against like an aggro deck or something. I was playing it against the blue red control deck, but it feels like she would be strong there, and she just wasn't. She was never what I wanted her to be. Because she's a creature, she can get dragon fired. She can get be prepared. Like, just play mirror. I know a lot of people are gonna hate me, but play mirror.
I think this card is fine. It's just fine. I wish
Fine
that
is
it
the
had.
right word.
I wish it had extra text. I wish it had some effect, bodyguard or something. I don't know, or just like an extra lore on it, so that you don't always have to feel like you're priced into tapping it for a card.
Mm-hmm.
But tapping it for a card and then having your opponent run their early game into it also feels fine. Like, you're gonna go card even and they're gonna go -2. So it's like taking out a couple cards from your opponent, but you already have better cards for that. This card feels just fine. For me, it's like C tier.
Yeah, that's where I would put it. It's probably better in different matchups, but it was just never what I wanted it to be.
Yeah. I'm gonna drop the queen into C tier, and then we will move on to our next color. And that next color is
Emerald. Woo!
Emerald, starting off with our good friend Genie on the job. Is a 6-cost, not inkable, 3 power, 4 health, evasive. When you play it, you mana war. You return chosen character to their player's hand, and it quests for 2.
Love it.
Obviously, we know the evasive mechanic is very powerful. They
Mhm.
have to be balanced with reasonable stats. 6-drop,
Mhm.
3/4, little tough, not inkable, pretty tough. Quest for 2, return something to hand. This is going to be a big tempo swing for green. We were talking earlier about the green aggro deck. I think this is a fine top end for that, like where you're just playing like 6 as your highest possible top end, and even might still be too much there. But you're just playing this to like pick up a bodyguard or pick up some big threat. Gives you 1 turn where they can't clear your board, and then the next turn, this is going to get you 2 lore, probably 2 more the turn after, unless you're picking up something like Maleficent or Hades. Card feels fine, not great, not broken, not awful, definitely not Marshmallow tier. What are your thoughts?
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
If you play Mickey Mouse, Brave Little Tailor, because I know you like your red-blue control deck, and I genie it back to your hand, how do you feel?
Probably suck.
Yeah, and then you drop it again next turn because you're like, okay, at least I can trade into Genie and it's fine. And then I play another one and bounce it back to your hand.
But if a card has to be good in multiples, is it good?
I mean, no, probably not. That wasn't really the point I'm making. I love this card. He is such a big tempo swing. Like, just being able to bounce something to their hand and then represent 2 lore on your next turn on an evasive body is awesome. He's uninkable, but that's fine. You gotta play with some unequal cards, and this is a really good one. So I
Where
like him.
where are you putting this?
I think he's A tier. I don't think he's quite S tier. Like, he's good. Don't get me wrong, but he's not S tier. He's A tier.
I think I can settle for A tier on here. This is something that I do need to play more games with or play more games against. Card feels fine. I personally, for me, this is like a high B tier. I will run a track on anything that says evasive. Like, I'll run a mile for a card with evasive. But the uninkable part is kind of tough because I think every other evasive character is inkable, except for this one.
Yeah.
I'll make up for it with the fact that this one is Mana War. Quest for 2,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Genie, on the job,
You know.
more like on the A tier.
And he's probably good right now, and he probably gets worse over time. But that's probably most of the things. So.
I mean, think of Magic Alpha. We're looking at Shivan Dragons right now and losing our mind.
Yep. Okay, the next character is Mickey Mouse, Artful Rogue. He's a 7 mana uninkable, 6/5 with Shift 5, 2 lore pips, and the ability Misdirection. Whenever you play an action, choose an opposing character can't quest during their next turn. T, what do you think?
Maybe we should have had another tier at the bottom called Mickey Mouse tier.
No, I love this card. Come on.
If you're going to play green and you're going to convince me to play Genie, I'm not also playing a 7-drop that doesn't ink.
Well, you don't have to run 4 genies.
But I think you wanna. The card was good in multiples.
He was good in multiples. I think Mickey is sick though. I think there's a really big brain Mickey Mouse action deck that's gonna be sick, honestly.
It's gonna be Mickey Mouses and Mother Gothels and stuff where you just tell your opponent they don't get to play the game.
Yes. Michael Mouse's Funhouse.
Michael Mouse's Funhouse. I don't know, man. For me, the stats are fine. 5 health, kind of not great. I wish this was flipped to be a 5/6.
That'd be nuts, though.
I think I'd be more happy with that. Quests for 2 on a 7-drop. Not sold there.
And tells other things they can't quest.
I don't think that matters as much, though, if you're going to play something like this where they already what? If you play Mickey, you're not playing an action the same turn. Because this is a 7-drop. Or even if it's a 5-drop.
It's a song.
Sure. But I just feel like this card doesn't do it for me. The flavor text does it for me, which is quiet as a, well, you know. And for me, this is, well, you know, D tier.
D tier? What? I was going to compromise and go B tier.
Oh, man.
Oh, I love this card.
I think this card is awful. I would not pick this up ever. I am very close to putting Mickey in F tier.
Whoa, can we compromise and put him low C? I love this card.
I'm going to put him to the edge of C tier.
That's fine. He's still in there though. That's all that counts. We won that one.
I think this card is awful.
I love this card. He's so, and the green Mickey you shift onto is good too. He's a 3 mana 3/4. 4 mana or 4 toughness rather is a pretty good break point.
Yeah, you put it on Steamboat Willie.
Yeah,
and then you're like
Steamboat Willie.
I don't know. I feel like I'd rather have Steamboat Willie.
No. Okay. we can probably argue about this one for a while, so we should probably move on to the best super rare in green.
And that is Mother Gothel, Selfish Manipulator. The 6-cost inkable, 3 power, 6 health. Sold. It quests for 2, and it says, while this character is exerted, tapped, opposing characters can't quest.
Love it. I love it. I already have my playset. I picked them all up at Gen Con. I'm very excited to have them. This is like an S tier. The deck it goes in is, it wants 4 of them. It's so good. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just awesome. Being able to turn all of your opponent's characters off is great. And green is trying to give things reckless anyway, and you're like, oh, this gets reckless, and then this gets reckless, and this gets reckless. Mother Gothel just says, hey, guess what? You've all got reckless, basically.
Pretty much.
Like the Oprah Winfrey of reckless.
Yeah, passing out reckless.
Mm-hmm.
I think this card is nuts. There's gotta be some shell coming, either it either already exists and we just haven't found it, or it's coming in the next couple sets. This card is going to take over the metagame. I could see that coming already. This is Gaslight the card. Gaslight
Mm.
Gatekeep Girl Boss, the card. You played the One Piece card game for a little bit, right?
Oh yeah.
This is Eustace Captain Kid,
Mm.
the 8-drop kid.
Yep.
You
Yep.
have to hit this. You don't get to play the game until you hit this. So if you just fill your deck with blockers, just like the Eustace Kid deck, they are just not winning the game. You will just win the game like 4 lore a turn and just be like, all right, can you clear this in 5 turns? And even when you do, can you clear my board after? And the answer is probably no. And this card is probably insane. And so that's why I am saying Mother Gothel S tier.
I agree. S tier all the way. No arguments.
All right. Let's drop Mother Gothel into S tier, and then we will move on to the next color. Nick, take it away.
All right, we have Aladdin, Heroic Outlaw. He's a 7-mana inkable 5/5 that quests for 2. He has Shift 5 and Daring Exploit. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you gain 2 lore, and each opponent loses 2 lore. What do you think about it, T?
I started off thinking this card was awful, like way overcosted for what it did.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, maybe there's something with Shift. I don't think there is. But I think this card is a great top end for blue-red control. Maybe not a 4 of, maybe like 2 or 3. And I've said this before. I'll say it again. I'll say it until people figure it out. Every deck list I see is 4 of everything. It's like 4 of this, 4 of that, 4 of this, 4 of that. It's all 4 ofs. I think that's wrong. I think Lorcana is built in a way where you can afford to play a bunch of 2 ofs as long as they ink that have effects that matter in some matchups.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how the competitive scene really is yet, or if it's like best of 1, best of 3. We don't know. So things like Silver Beast, where it breaks an item, are potentially insanely powerful if it's a best of 1 type game, where you just or even if it's not, you just have things that break items in your main. Aladdin feels that way to me. This is something that's going to help you in your aggro matchups while also being a meaningful top end if it has to be the top end you play in like a control matchup where it just quests for 2. It's fine. But if you're attacking with it, you're also questing for 2 and taking them down a character and taking them down 2. This card feels really good. I'm not going to put it S tier because I still think it's a little bit overcosted. I think this should have been like a 6-drop 4/5. But yeah. I think Aladdin's A tier for me. I like it in the blue-red control deck as a 2 of. I think it's potentially very powerful, and it helps you in your aggro matchups.
I agree. I think that A tier is the perfect place for this. I don't think S is quite it, but this card helps in so many ways if aggro is popular in the meta. He's fantastic. You already named and listed all of the points of why you would play him, so I'm not going to reiterate on them. But yeah, if aggro is popular, Aladdin will be popular, and that's fun. I like that.
Big fan. Next, we have one that is very hyped, and I'm not sure how good it is yet.
I love it.
I am excited to see how this goes, and maybe it's really good. There's always a mono red deck. And that is Mulan, Imperial Soldier. 5-drop inkable. That's a 4 power, 5 health character with lead by example. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, your other characters gain +1 lore for this turn, and Mulan herself quests for 1.
I love this card. I think you left out the most important part, and that's that she's a princess. And I think there is an Amber Ruby princess deck that will pop off. It'll probably be really good against the aggro decks, to be honest. I don't know if it'll do well against control, but if aggro is popular, I think this could be popular too. A lot of the princesses have really big butts already. It's like Moana with her 6 toughness,
Hey, yo.
with 5. Okay, you know what I meant. They have really big willpower. And Mulan has 5 as well. I think there's a deck that will run princesses out, play a Moana, play a Mulan, attack with a Mulan, kill something, ready it with like a LeFou or Fan the Flames, kill another thing, and then all of your princesses have 2 additional lore, so you get to quest for like 10 or 12 or however much, and then untap them all with Milana and protect them. And then at that point, you're winning the game next turn. And I think that's a really cool spot to be in. I don't know how well that will work against things that are not aggro. I think it's probably pretty flimsy to mid-range strategies and definitely control strategies. So we'll just have to wait and see what people come up with. But I really like the idea of the deck. I think she is probably B tier, either high B or low A. I think, but we'll just have to wait and see what she does.
All right. I think this card is probably fine. Like, this card has the means to go nuts. The deck you're describing to me feels like a combo deck, but it's a creature-based combo deck instead of like the item-based combo decks that we have already that we've seen. I do think that this could be really good. For me, I'm going to put it for now in B tier.
I think that's a good place to settle on it.
Mulan making her way down to business in B tier. Next, we have basically another Marshmallow.
I was literally about to say another card with its own category.
Okay, first, the card is Teika, the burning one. 6 cost, not inkable, 8 attack, 6 health, reckless. I want to issue a major apology. My round 2 and round 3 opponents in the starter deck challenge. Teika was the super rare that I opened. At that time, I had not yet seen Red Maui, and I thought that Teika had Rush Reckless. So the whole tournament, or round 2 and round 3, I definitely played this card and accidentally cheated. I thought this card had Rush Reckless. I played it and swung, and neither of us realized this card is awful.
Yeah, this card's really bad. Like, why would you ever play this over the rare red Maui that does the exact same thing, but better?
Except it has Rush, and it inks. Like, what is going on? These should have been swapped. I think that has to have been an oversight. Like, 8 attack, was that what you were going for here? It doesn't have evasive, so it can't hit your, like, it can't hit Brave Little Tailor. Like, it's, I don't really understand what happened here. Teika, F tier, not close.
Yeah,
we can
worst red super by a large margin.
We can just move on from that one, yeah.
Okay, our next color is Sapphire, and the first super rare in that is Aurora, Dreaming Guardian. She is a 5-mana inkable 3/5 with 2 lore pips, shift 3, and protective embrace, which says your other characters gain ward, which means opponents can't target them except the challenge. What do you think?
I love this card. I've loved this card since it was spoiled. I think this card is nuts. One thing that people don't see in this card is that if you put 2 into play, the only way to kill your board, anything on it, is to challenge or to board wipe. And I think that's really powerful. Like, protecting everything is just nuts. It's really good. It's really good. And just, even if you don't do that, if you just give your other characters ward, like all your other characters, then they have to kill this. If you're in a matchup where it matters, you can just have Aurora and not exert it, not quest with it unless you need it to win or whatever. You can just not quest with this, keep it in play, use it as a removal spell later, keep your things protected. If you're about to play a Brave Little Tailor, you can play this the turn before, plus like a ramp card to play the Brave Little Tailor next turn. I'm really high on this card. I don't think it's broken, but I think it's really good. For me, this is a solid A tier.
Good. I think all those points are legit. I think that I think she's high B, so I'm willing to bump it up to A. I think she's good. I don't think the Auroras that she shifts onto are good. I also don't think there is enough targeting that happens currently in the meta for her to be worthwhile. But if it becomes the case that there is, she's probably a pretty easy swap into the deck she wants to be in anyway. So yeah, I'm down for A tier.
For me, it's inkable. So like if you're not playing against blue red or something with Dragonfire, Let It Go, Maleficent, Hades, if you're not playing against one of those, you can just ink it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Or you can just put it in play, take out some of their characters. It's got 5 health. It's gonna live a bit. It's gonna do some damage. I think this card's an A. So yeah,
Absolutely.
Let's drop that over into A tier. And what do we have next?
We have Robin Hood, Unrivaled Archer. He's a 6-mana inkable 4/4 with 2 lore pips. He has Feed the Poor, so when you play this character, if an opponent has more cards in hand than you draw a card. And Good Shot. During your turn, this character gains Evasive. Thoughts, opinions? What do you think, T?
Whenever we were first testing the blue-red control deck at Gen Con, I went, man, I really wish that I had something in here that I could draw cards. But I wasn't playing Robin Hood yet. Robin Hood, really powerful. It's finely statted. I wish it was a 4/5, but I'm fine with it being a 4/4. It replaces itself, gets a card, at least one card from your opponent to deal with it. If they don't deal with it, it quests for 2. It'll get you some early game pressure. It has evasive on your turn, so you can attack their evasive characters. This card, also very powerful for me. Also very powerful for me. I think this is high B, low A.
That's literally exactly where I was going to put it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to put it in A, but I think it was really high B. I think it's good in the decks it's good in. Like you said, your blue-red control deck. Being able to draw a card when you're just like ramping and like trying to 1-for-1 people is pretty solid. Questing for 2. I mean, in your control deck, anything you play on the board is going to be a threat that they have to deal with. Like he'll win you the game if they don't deal with him. So he's good. I think he's way better than I thought he was in the beginning.
Solidly agree. I'm going to slap him in B just because I wish his stat line was a little better.
Agreed.
He's missing a little something.
If it was, he'd be able to kill Mickey BLT. I don't know if that's where they want it. But
true.
B tier's good.
Yep. All right. Slap that into B. And then we have Amatoa. So shiny.
Amatoa, so shiny.
He's an 8-drop. Inkable, 5 power, 8 health. When you play this character and when he quests, you may return an item from your graveyard to your hand, from your discard to your hand. And then this character gains +1 lore for each item you have in play. And it base quests for 1. If you have 4 items, this quests for 5. I don't know how to feel about this card. I've seen this as I've seen this as the top end in some of the item decks, but take it away. I don't know.
He automatically gets an S for me because he is voiced by Jermaine Clement, one of the members of Flight of the Conchords. And if you know anything about them, you know that this card already belongs in S tier. Seriously though, I think he's probably, I think he's really good in a set or 2. I think, and he might be good now. But I've not seen anyone, and I haven't tried it, but I do have plans and thoughts about how to build it. I think there's a pretty cool blue-red control deck that does not go for like BLTs and like Aladdins and things to win the game. They play items and get value out of that because when you be prepared, it doesn't get rid of your items. So all of those stay and all their effects are still there. And then he eventually comes down and closes out the game. He's big, like he's a 5/8. He's 8 mana, which you'll have to ramp to get to, which is fine. You're doing that anyway. But he's inkable, so like he's mana if you draw him in the early game. It's not a big deal. I really like him. I think he's probably, as it stands right now, I think he's probably just B tier. But I think in a couple sets he'll probably go up quite a bit.
I think right now probably C tier for me.
Mm-hmm.
There's the potential for if a princess deck goes like running off with the meta that you're playing blue-red control with Poison Apple, or if a villain's deck goes nuts, you have the sort of the Banished Sword, and that is really good here. Can't
you give him at least? Can you give him a C+ or a low B because he's Jermaine?
I'll give him a C+.
There you go. I'll take it. 8
mana is scaring me on this card, so I think it has to go into a control shell. But the item deck wants to be a combo deck that combos before you're at 8 mana. So I'm not sold on this. I feel like a lot of the cards we've read so far and gone through have been, oh, this is probably good in a set or 2. So I'm really excited to see what happens in set 2, set 3, to see if we're right. Like, we can look back on this and be like, oh yeah, Tamatoa, we said it would be nuts in a set. We just needed a couple more items, and then we get that couple more items, and then Tamatoa is insane. Like, I think that'd be really cool. Is it going to happen? We'll find out. For now, this is a C tier for me.
Yep, that's fine.
But that finishes out our blue and brings us
on to the last color.
The last color.
Deal. Our first super rare is Hans, 13th in line. He is a 4-mana inkable 3/3 that quests for 2. He has an ability called Stage a Little Accident. Whenever this character quests, you may deal 1 damage to chosen character. You may be familiar with this card if you played Hearthstone, because he looks a lot like Knife Juggler.
And he plays a lot like Knife Juggler.
Yeah. This might be a hot take, because I think a lot of people like him. I think he's C tier. I don't think he's that great. 1 damage is hardly ever relevant. Maybe if you're playing like the Tinkerbell and Beast deck, he's fine. But 3/3 for 4 isn't great. Questing for 2 is good, but like I said, one damage is hardly ever relevant. So I don't know. He's like low B, C maybe. Those are my thoughts. I don't know.
I can actually get behind what you're putting down. This card doesn't feel great to me. It's inkable, but I don't want to play a bunch of cards in my deck just because they're inkable. Like, this card is just fine. You're right, the 1 damage doesn't matter a whole lot very often. The 1 damage is going to matter because this card is a 3/4 for 4 instead of being a 4-mana 3/4. It's a 3/3 for 4. So, like, you're going to need that extra damage to make up for how poorly statted this is. It quests for 2, but, like, let's look back at Mickey Mouse, the sorcerer. Got the same stat. It's got a better stat line. It quests for 2, and I think the text might even be more relevant on the purple Mickey than here on Hans, other than just making up for how bad Hans' stat line is. So this is going to be a C for me. Maybe people know something that we don't, because this was one of the biggest cards that I was asked for whenever we were trading at Gen Con. I had like 8 people ask me if I had any Hans. I don't know if they were just making master sets, and I was the only one in the room who opened Hans, or what happened, but maybe there's someone we're missing. For now, this is a C for me.
Yeah, I agree. C, all the way.
Next up, we have Tinkerbell. Giant Fairy is a 6-mana inkable, 4 power, 5 health, with Shift 4. It quests for 2, and it has Rock the Boat. When you play this character, deal 1 damage to each opposing character, and Puny Pirate. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may deal 2 damage to chosen opposing character. Now this is pod racing.
This is pod racing. This is a card for sure. I love this card. This feels like they printed the best mid-range character for a mid-range deck in the first set. It's so cool.
Yeah, this card feels like well statted for what it does. Like, I'm fine with it being a 4/5 for 6. It's a little below rate, but it's better than Robin Hood's stat line. It's got the extra health that I wanted on Robin Hood.
And it can shift. It
quests for 2. It shifts. It deals damage. When you play it, deal 1 to each opposing character. That's better than Hans, because Hans is like target on quest. This is, whenever you play it, you're hitting everything for 1. So I'm going to hit all your little things. And then whenever you banish and challenge, you're dealing 2 to another character anyway. So this is killing 2 things. When this challenges, it's going to get 2 things. You can shift it, play it early, surprise your opponent with it. They're not going to play around it. You're going to shift onto your Tinkerbell and be like, ping everything for 1, challenge your thing, banish your other thing. And it's going to be an absolute blowout. People are going to be upset that it happened. And this card is nuts. This is S tier for me.
Did you touch about how on turn 4 you can shift onto the other Tinkerbell, use the ability when you play it, deal 1 damage to everything, and then use Tinkerbell to sing Grab Your Swords? Because that's pretty solid too.
I mean, yeah, that's also nuts. Like, your turn 4 grabbing swords, or like even if you don't have Grab Your Swords, just doing the attack or playing Grab Your Swords. Like, this card, very versatile, very powerful.
S2.
S tier for sure. Tinkerbell, insane.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gotten enchanted. What else? Like, what does it not have going for it? Lost Boys picked this as their profile picture whenever they first started on Twitter and YouTube. Makes sense. Card's nuts. Card's great. Looks cool. Is cool. Does cool. Does it all.
All right. Our last card is A Whole New World. It's a song, and it costs 5. It's uninkable. And each player discards their hand and draws 7 cards. Everyone is really hype about this card. I think it's fine. The problem is that you really need to make sure that what you're doing with your 7 cards is better than what they're doing with their 7 cards. I've heard a lot of people make the argument that you can play it while they have cards left in their hand to disrupt their game plan. I don't really think that that's how that works. Sure, maybe they have to discard a card they were getting ready to play, but you're giving them 7 new options. They're not going to not have something to play. I think it's good. I don't think it's amazing. It's probably like B tier for me. I think it's awesome in multiplayer.
Wheel of
or
Fortune
something like
bad
that.
says commander player.
Yeah, I know, right?
I don't know.
It's fine.
I think this card is potentially really good. There's the really cool blue steel deck that is playing Bell and using all the cards in your hand and Fishbone Quill to just dump everything on the board and then play this while your opponent still has like 4 cards, 5 cards in their hand, and you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna go back to 7. You can draw 2 cards, I'll draw 7, and you just make a lot more impact to the board than they do. I don't think this is S, but I think it is definitely worth noting that this is the only card that is a super rare that isn't a character. They put power into this card. It doesn't ink, but it's a song. You made it Whole New World. Flavorfully, it fits. The card fits. This is something that I would pick up week 1 if you get the chance and they're reasonably priced. Whole New World feels insane. This is A tier for me.
I guess. I don't know. I'm still not sold. I guess we'll find out.
You cool if I drop it in A tier and then I'll happily admit defeat if I'm wrong next week on the pod?
We'll put it in A tier if you raise Michael Mouse to B. Or not B, C. I think he might have been in C already, but give him a high C.
He's in C. He's in C.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is going to complete our super rare tier list. We've got ARIEL, Mother Gothel, and Tinkerbell in S tier. GENIE, Aladdin, Aurora, and Whole New World in A tier. Stitch, Purple Mickey, Mulan, and Robin Hood in B tier. Maximus, Queen, Green Mickey, Tamatoa, and Hans in C tier. D tier we left completely empty, so it definitely felt like there was a giant gap between the cards that were playable and good and the cards that were awful. And speaking of awful, in F tier we have Marshmallow and Teika. So yeah,
Yep, that sounds accurate to me. Marshmallow and Teika can go lower than low, in my opinion, but that's okay.
I think originally when we started this pod, we said that we were going to do supers and legendaries in this one episode.
We did. We
This
went on for a while.
this has been a minute, so I'm going to we'll cut it here with just the supers, and then we will record another bit that isn't the weekly pod for the legendaries, and we'll put it out probably before whatever next week's pod is. Just covering the legendaries. So this will be 2 separate videos. This one will be the supers. The next one will be the legendaries. Legendaries will just be a short video, and then we'll have another pod next week as well. So yeah, this is the tier list. Take a look. Anything high in the tier, A or S, I think are reasonable to pick up. Aladdin, Aurora, Mickey,
the purple one.
the purple one, and what am I missing here? Are those the only ones?
You're not. Those are the only ones.
Okay. Aladdin, Aurora, and Purple Mickey are in the starter decks. So easier to pick up, but they're foil. I would pick up anything in S tier. I would pick up anything in A tier. The rest, who knows? If you're just looking to build a collection, pick them all up. You can pass on Marshmallows or Teikas if you want to, But the rest of them, I think they're really good. I think the game feels really well designed. I'm happy with the gameplay that I've played so far of the game. Pixelborn feels insane for just getting on and jamming some games with people. I love it. And yeah, I'm excited to see what happens once the actual release goes live, because it's when you're listening to this, if you're listening on the release day, it's today. We're putting this live on release day. So go down to your LGS, see if they got Lorcana. If they didn't, check the internet, I guess. I don't know, man. But
check Best Buy.
Check Best Buy, yeah. But yeah, I'm excited to play the game in paper more. Bunch of stores down by you are getting it. So I'm going to have to start making like 1.5, 2-hour road trips to play weeklies.
Hey, it's still an hour to my best local shop, so
yeah.
I'll also be doing that.
But it's worth it. It's worth, yeah, once you get a car. Oh no. Oh no. Do you have any updates that we can say on the pod, like with how everything's going for that?
I have plans on what I would like to get, but no updates as far as the actual plans go. So
fair enough. Well, we're gonna cut it there. We will catch you in the next episode and then next week in the pod. My name is T. This is Nick.
My name is Nick. Hello.
We are signing off. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye.